Okay. So I was talking about like ports are nothing but separation of services within the system. Okay. So let's say whenever any client communicates to the server, if you try to communicate from your just a moment. If you try to communicate from your computer to your any website or any server, basically communication happens with the four information. One is source IP, another one is destination IP, and the source IP, destination port, and the source port. Okay, four information are needed whenever any communication is happening from client side to the server side. Okay, so ports are nothing but like suppose if I'm taking an example, let's say this is my server, okay, or an instance where some services are running. Let's say one of the services SSH, another service is HTTP. Let's say DNS is running, DHCP service is running. Okay. So let's say these four services are running. Okay. In this instance. Now, when these services are running in this instance, and if you have IP address of this server, let's say be it anything 192.168.0.10. Okay. Now suppose you are connecting to this instance. Let's say there's a user. Okay. Let's say this is a user who is trying to connect to this particular server. Okay. Okay, let's say this user is trying to connect this particular server. Okay. Now, if I don't have the ports, how this user will define which service it wants to connect? Let's say I want to connect to SSH. What's the port number of SSH? Anybody can tell me?
Yes, sir, 22.
22, right? So if I don't have the ports, that in that case, what will happen? You don't know which service want to connect, right? So that's where the ports comes necessary, right? So that's why we have already defined that any service running in the server would have port number. So let's say SSH has having default port number as a 22, HTTP has 80, DNS has 53. So like this, lots of other services, maybe you are running PHP, Java, MySQL. Okay, for MySQL, we have default port number 3305. Okay, so this is how the service has been defined according to the port number. So if any user wants to connect to the database, so which port it will use? It will use 3305. But if you don't have the ports itself, then how it will connect? A single IP address cannot define multiple services in the server, right? That's why we need the port number. That's what we discussed yesterday. The purpose of port number is to communication channel, provide separation of services, security, and service identification. Okay. You can read it. I have already written lots of other information. And now I have also given some points over to this particular port number. So port number is ranging from 0 to 65535. Means if I want to give any port number to any service or if I want to define a port number, it will range from 0 to 65535. Okay, in Linux. In Linux or in the Windows system as well. Okay. So well-known ports are 0 to 1023. Okay. So any services like SSH, HTTP, SFTP are getting the port numbers from here. Okay. And then we have a registered port which is used for port forwarding. Okay. You would have heard the name about port forwarding. Means suppose what actually happens is, let's say if you have gone through the container technology, we basically use there the port numbers. So let's say this is my server, okay, and there are three containers running. This is first container, this is second container, this is third container, okay. And in this particular container, I'm running a service called as HTTP, let's say, and HTTP runs over the by default 80 port, okay. Now this container is having 80 port running HTTP service. Your server as well having one HTTP service running on 80 port. Now tell me if this user wants to connect to your container application, container HTTP server. then what will happen? So this user will get conflicts whether if this user will use 80 port, so whether it will connect it to this one or whether it will connect it to the local server HTTP server. Okay. So that's why in containers we usually use the port forwarding. What we do is we write a rule into the firewall says that whenever any traffic comes over port number 8080, so what we can do is we can route this traffic to 8080. Okay. So that's where we call them as a port forwarding. So what actually happens when this user connects to 8080 port? So it will be routed to container HTTP. Okay. And when this user uses simple 80 port for connection, it will be routed to the server HTTP service. Okay. So this is the most common use case whenever we use the containers. We basically have to do the port forwarding because the local ports are utilized by the local services running on the virtual machine. Okay. And containers are nothing but the virtual machine over a OS. Okay. Let's say you have a VM, okay, or EC2 instance. Over to that, if we are able to create multiple VMs, multiple OS, then we can use the container technology for that. Okay. So that's fine. I was just giving the overview on this. So that's where this range comes, okay, for port forwarding 102.4.2.491.51. And after that, whatever the left ports are there in this range, these ports are basically for dynamic provisioning, means these are called as ephemeral ports or dynamic ports. So dynamic ports are nothing but, as I said, that whenever any communication happens from client machine to your server machine, let's say this is your client, let's say, or maybe take this diagram like this, you will get more understanding. Let me just give me a moment. So let me draw a diagram. So let's say this is your user. Okay. Let's say this is IM. Okay. I want to connect to my server, which is nothing but EC2. Okay. So let's say this is my EC2 machine somewhere. Okay. Now, now if I want to connect to this EC2 machine, okay, then if I say that I want to connect from here and I want to do the SSH, okay. So basically four information are needed to do that. What is that four information? These four information are server would be having its IP address, right? And the port number. So server would be having IP address. You will use IP address to do the SSH. Let's say I want to do the SSH. Okay. Let's say I want to do the SSH to this server. Let's say IP address is x.x.x.x. Okay. Now tell me what will be the port number of this server when I do the SSH. What will be the port number of the service, SSH service? 1022, right? Now, when user is requesting to do the SSH over to this server, user also has, or user computer, okay, wherever it is sitting. So I can take a computer like this, okay. I have my Windows computer where I have downloaded the putty or anything to do the SSH. So this computer also have IP address, right? You will be assigned a public IP address to talk to the internet. So if you want to see your public IP address, my IP address, you can go to this and you can find out what is your IP address. And similarly, you can find out yours as well. Okay. So mine one is this one, which I'm getting from the internet. Okay. So this is the public IP address of my computer. Okay. And what will be the port number? Can anybody tell me? What will be the port number? So this is what ephemeral ports will be assigned. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Whenever communication happens, either from this side to this side, four information are needed. Port number and IP address of your client machine, port number and IP address of your service server machine. Okay. IP address of your client machine, server machine is already a public IP address, which you get it. Okay. Port number is a service which is running. Let's say tomorrow you are accessing HTTP, so port number will be HTTP. So as per the user reference point of view, the destination port, as per the user reference point of view, the destination port is 22. Destination IP address is server IP address, server public IP address, whatever you will get. Okay. And source IP address is this one, which you already got it. Okay. This one. 157.20.228.220. Okay. And what is the source port number? Source port number. So the source port number, that's what I'm saying. Source port number will be assigned from this range. It can be anything from this one to this one. Okay. It can be anything. So these all four information are needed to connect from your client machine to the server machine. Okay. Now we will see later on how these ports are assigned, which port will be assigned. That's why it says that this is a dynamic range. Okay. Now let's come to the another point. So you can use netstate command to check the port numbers. Okay. So whenever you run any service, you can use netstate command. How it will looks like. Let us see. So when you create a machine, let me create a machine. Let's say you are going to EC2. Why very less people are joining the class? Okay, no issues. So let's say if you are launching a machine, let's say my machine is web server, something like that. Okay. And let it be any key pair. So I am allowing SSH to my server. Okay, that's it. So basically in this machine, there is one service which is called as SSH. Okay, SSH being used. Now, if I want to connect to this machine, now, if I want to connect to this machine, what happened? Okay, now I am connected. So if I want to see whether my SSH service is running or not, I will use sudo systemctl status SSHD. Okay, so you see that your service is running. Okay, SSH service is running. Now, if you want to see the SSH is running on which port number, although you will get it here as well, your SSH is running on port number 22, but you can fire netstate command as well to check that what are all the ports are listening, what are the ports are running in your server. So one of them is 22, this is for IPv6. Another is 68.323. Okay. So these all services are utilizing a port number. How you are seeing that? You are seeing here colon 22 is for SSH. Okay. And there's a SSHD service running for this port. So that's how you will use SSH netstate command to check which ports are running in your server. Okay. Now let's come to the firewall. Okay. So basically in AWS, we have two types of firewall. So one of the type is security group and another type is your NACL, okay, which is network access control list. Now security group. Now let's first talk about the security group. Security group is basically a server level resource, means it is attached to your server or the ENI, okay. So let's say this is your server. Now I am just removing this one. We will come to this later on, okay. Or let it be like this. We can create another diagram to look at this. Okay, so now let's say this is your server. Okay, so whenever any server is created or EC2 machine is created, basically you get a network interface. Okay, you get a network interface on your machine where all the IP addresses have been assigned. Okay, yesterday we talked about private IP, public IP, right? So private IP and public IP are assigned to this particular interface, which is attached to your EC2 instance. Okay, now this instance is this is attached to your EC2 instance, and you get a private IP, public IP over to this particular interface. Now this interface basically, when we talk about the security group, so security group is basically attached to the ENI. Okay, security group is attached to the ENI. So let's say security group. This is your security group. Okay, so this security group is basically attached where this is your attached to the ENI of the server. Okay. Now, this security group will be having multiple rules that we will talk about. Okay. So let's say any traffic is coming from to the user. Any traffic is coming to the user. Basically, it has to go through the security group. So here we define the rules of the security group. Okay. And this is a user. If any user wants to connect to the your server or want to access any service, basically it has to go through the security group, and security group is attached where ENI. Okay, because traffic finally goes from here. This is where your public IP and private IP are been assigned. Okay, so to communication happens from your IP. So communication happens from your ENI. All right. So that's what I've written here. It's a ENI level resource. Okay, which means it is attached to the ENI to the server. You can create a security group from the EC2 or VPC console. So either you can create, I can go to the EC2 service or I then go to the VPC service. In both the service, you can create the security group. Okay. So if you see here on the left hand side, you will see the option to go and create a security group. In the VPC as well, you will get this option. Okay. All right. So either anyway you can use to create the security group. Now, another thing about the security group is it is attached to the instance. I already said that whether ENI or server both are same. Okay. More technically, you can say ENI, and in the general way, we say that it is attached to the instance. All the server can have one security group or different security group for each server. So your one server can have multiple security group. So this server can have one security group or can have multiple, but how much will be maximum? You can have maximum 5 security group. Okay, so you can have maximum 5 security group per instance. Every instance can have 5 security group. Now, these are two types of rule defined in the security group: inbound rule and outbound rule. So if you look at a security group, it is basically placed for the security of your instance. So there are two types of rule. Let's look at any security group or create a security group. Okay, let's say I'm creating one security group. Let's say web server security group. Let's give it name like this, web server security group. Okay. and you can give the description that allow HTTP traffic on my server over port number 80, because HTTP runs over port number 80. Okay. So I am allowing HTTP traffic only by this security group. Now security group has to be placed in a VPC. Okay. So you have to decide which VPC you want to place the security group, because why we have to decide the VPC? Because security group has a scope of a VPC. That means suppose there are two servers. One of the server is running in VPC A or another server is running in VPC B. So you cannot attach a security group of VPC A to the server of VPC B. Okay, you got it? So let's say there are two security group. There are one security group in VPC, default VPC you created. And tomorrow you are creating the server in this VPC. So you cannot attach this security group to a server which is launched inside this VPC. Okay. So you can take anyone. Right now I'm just creating the security group, so no worries about that. I just wanted to define the rules. So right now if you see here, there are two types of rules defined. Okay. So one is the inbound rule, another one is the outbound rule. Yesterday I talked about what's the inbound and outbound. So let's now take it here. What could it could be? So I'm just taking here. In this security group, basically two types of rules are defined. I'm just removing the other one. Now you got it that we can attach maximum 5 security group to a server. Now let's okay. So inbound rule and outbound rule. Now any traffic comes from user side to the server. Okay, any traffic comes from user side to the server. Which rule will be implemented? Can you tell me what's the traffic? The traffic which is coming from user to the server. What is the traffic? Inbound or outbound?
Inbound.
Inbound traffic. All right. So here we write the inbound traffic. Inbound traffic. And any traffic which is returning back from server to the user, that traffic is outbound traffic. Okay. And yesterday I told you that we see the traffic in the reference. So right now we are seeing in terms of a reference of a user. So user is sending traffic to the server. It's inbound traffic for EC2. EC2 is sending back the traffic to the user. There's the outbound traffic for EC2. Okay. Now that's what we write into the security group. Now suppose you want to access a service which is running over EC2. Okay. And that service is running on port number 80. Let's say HTTP service running. Now, where you will define that HTTP port? Inbound rule or outbound rule? Where you will allow that?
Inbound rule.
Inbound rule, right? Because when user is accessing your service, it has to be allowed into go into that server, right? So that's where when it will go, when you decide, when you open your inbound rule. So that's what if I want to create a security group and I want to allow a user to access the service which is running on port number 80, so I will define here. But if you see here, right now I have not defined anything. By default, what you are getting into a security group. So by default, all the inbound is disabled and all outbound is enabled. Means all the traffic in the outbound, any traffic can go outside from the server, but no traffic can come inside the server. That's what into the default security group. That's what into the security group of default rules. Okay. Now, basically, one thing you need to understand, when you are writing the rules into the security group, there are only allow rules. Okay. There's no deny rules. Means you cannot say that allow SSH or deny HTTP. No, you can only say which is used to be allowed. Okay. So let's say if you are allowing here port number 80, let's say I'm saying that, okay, I want to do HTTP allow on my server. So anybody can access the website which is running over port number 80 in my server. And from where I'm saying that it is from internet. Okay. 0.0.0.0 here means from internet, anybody can come to me on my server and can access the website which is running on port number 80 over to my server. This is the definition of this rule. Okay. Now what will happen to the SSH? if I'm not allowed here, so all the other protocols or all the other traffic will be denied by default. Whatever you have allowed, that will be allowed, except that whatever you have not allowed, that will be denied. Okay, so whatever will be allowed here, that only will be allowed. Now, in the outbound, what is by default? In the outbound, the by default rule is everything is going outside. Means server can send the traffic outside to the internet. 0.0.0 means to the internet. It will send the traffic to the internet or anywhere, because outbound is having 0.0.0. So for now, let's create this rule. Okay. All right. So I'm creating this rule, and one security group is created with this name, web server security group. Now let's say I'm creating a server. Let's go to the EC2 console and create a web server and see that whether our server is working fine or not. So right now, one of the instances is running. Let me remove that instance for now. Okay, we have already one web server. Okay, no issues. So we can connect to this server. How do we connect? Either you use putty session or you can use connect option here. Just go here and connect to this server. I think we already had that connection, but leave it. We can again connect it. So now this is my server where we will run a service called as Apache, which is nothing but the HTTP service inside the server where we can host our website. So how do we do that? So for that, we need to use a Linux command. So there is one service called as HTTPD. Okay. So you can install that service using yum install command, and we will use HTTPD. Service name is HTTPD. Actually, service name is Apache, but we call it as inside the server as HTTPD, which is nothing but HTTP daemon. Okay, more specifically. Now, when we install this service, now this is going to be installed. We have installed that service into the server. Now, what we can do is we can basically check the status of the service using sudo systemctl status httpd. Okay, this command you will use. Right now it says that this service is not running. Okay, it's disabled and not running right now. So what I can do is sudo systemctl start httpd. So I have started this service. Okay, again you can check the status. This service is running now. So now I am just putting a default page for my website into this server. So how can I do that? I can use a vim command or vi command. That's fine to write a file. So I can write the file in where www.html index.html. This is where the default HTML pages are placed. Okay, you can write here. This is my public server because I placed this server into the public subnet, right? And HTTP is running over this server. All right, I'm just saving this file for now. What happened? Why it's not saving? Maybe I need to open it from the sudo privileges. I can copy this content for now. Okay, so I need to apply sudo before this command because I need to have a root privilege. Now I will again put this content here. So now if you see, if I want to take the IP address of this server, public IP address, because that's where public IP address is useful when we are connecting to the internet. So I will place this IP address here. This is not working. Can anybody tell me why it's not working? Can you think of why it's not working? We have allowed the port number 80, right? Because when we created this server, we did not assign that security group which we created, okay? We created this security group. Did we assign that security group to the server? No. So we need to go to the security, check that which security group is allowed. So this is a security group. So we don't want this security group. Either we can allow the rule here in this security group, or either we can change the security group. So how you can do that? You can go to the actions of this server. You can go to the security, change security group. Okay. So now I don't want this security group for this server. I want to have another security group. So you can find out your security group here. This is the one web server security group. So I want to place this security group to this server. Sorry, just add this here and save it. So now this is the security group which is being assigned to this server. Now what is written in that security group? You can go to the security and see what are the rules here. So in this security group, inbound rules are just no inbound rules, no outbound rules. This is what we created, right? Web server security group. Let me see. So when you go to the details and see which security group is assigned to this server, security, your web server security group, and in this security group, in this security group, we have 80 port number allowed from to the internet. Means from the internet, anybody can access over the port number 80. So that's where we are accessing from the internet to this server. Okay, now let me refresh it. Now when you refresh it, your website will work. Just wait for a second. It's taking that much time to be connect. Still not connecting. Again, see the what is the rule. Is there any problem to this server? So go to the security, open security group. In that security group, the inbound rules are that we have port number 80 allowed. Port number 80 from to the internet. Yeah, that's fine. What is allowed for outbounds? Nothing is allowed. Okay, in the outbound, every traffic is allowed. That is also fine. So it should respond. Let me see whether our services are running or not. System CTL. This server is having some problem. Let me see what is that. Why it's not running. Let me reconnect to this server. Ensure that network settings are configured correctly. There's something wrong with this server happened. It's not allowing me to connect. Just give me a moment. Let me try to connect with this party session. Go to SSH, authentication, credentials, and then go to the keys which we have decided. No, something wrong with this server has happened. Okay. Maybe corrupted or anything happened with this server. So what we can do is, let me create another server. That's fine. You can get this type of error anytime. Not an issue. Let me create another server, web server B. Okay. And I can take a Amazon Linux image, t2.micro is fine. I can use this keys, web server key pair 3, which I already have. I want to use existing security group now. I don't want this particular security group to be created. So what I can do is I can use web server, web server security group, which I already created. Okay. And it is created in 1D VPC. And this is our VPC ID 1D. Okay. Default VPC. That's what. Now launch the instance. Let's connect to this instance. Let me close these sessions. Okay. So now this instance is ready now. Let me connect to this instance. wrong with the server? Ensure the network settings are configured correctly. Okay, no issues. Do one thing. If it is not able to connect from here, do one thing. Go to the security group, allow port number 22 and connect from PuTTY. We can do it from there. So now I am allowing the port number 22 as well because I want to connect. So SSH port number 22 from everywhere. That's fine. Maybe because of this it's not happening. So let me try to reconnect. Yeah, now I'm able to connect. So let me again do that stuff. So sudo yum install httpd-y. So now httpd service is installing again into this new server and open a file called as where www.html index.html and write something here. Let's say my server. Mhm. I need to place sudo here. Okay, now this file is saved. Let me restart the service. Systemcpl restart httpd. Fail to restart. Why it's failing to restart? Let's see the logs. That.
Sir, I think you need to use sudo.
Yeah. Sorry. I need to use sudo systemctl restart httpd. Okay, now it's restarted. So now let's check whether everything is fine or not. So this is my server. This is the public IP of this server. In the security group, let's see what are the rules. So in the security group, this is the web server security group. Let's open the security group and see everything is fine. So this is the security group. And in the inbound rules, what is allowed? In the inbound rules, we have allowed port number 22 from everywhere, port number 80. So anybody can access my website over port number 80 from the internet. Okay. Now let's see if everything is working fine. Still not working. Yeah, now it's working. Maybe that there was a problem to that one first server. Maybe something went wrong. So you see here, now the users are able to connect to your service, which is running on port number 80. Okay. So according to this diagram, if you see here, I have allowed port number 80 and I have allowed port number 22 in the inbound. And in the outbound, what I have allowed means any traffic can return back whenever any traffic will be sent by the server. So I have allowed everything. Okay. So every port range, what is that port range? 0.0 say 655 something. Okay. 353. So every protocol, I'm just writing here every protocol and every traffic, all traffic, all protocol and all traffic. That's what I've defined. Means anything can go out from the server and anything can come. And, only port number 80 traffic and port number 22 traffic can come into the server. Okay. Now, so this is the rule which we have defined and accordingly it is working fine. Okay. Now, if you see here, right now it's working fine. If I block the port number 80 from the inbound, let's say if I'm going to edit inbound rules in the security group, which we have assigned to the server, if I remove this rule, okay, immediately you will see that now our website is not working. Okay, because we have blocked the 80 port now. So this is the purpose of security group. Okay. Anybody has any doubt can ask me. Otherwise, we will go ahead. How do we use the security group? What is inbound and outbound? All good?
Clear, sir.
Okay. Now let's move ahead. We have only allow rule in the security group. Everything is net except allowed. Okay. This is fine. You can read this one. That's fine. Okay. I have defined the diagram here as well. Now, there's the one firewall called as firewall D or IP tables. If somebody has worked on Linux, there's another firewall in Linux which is called as firewall D or IP tables. So what cloud recommends that you don't touch firewall D and IP tables to allow the traffic or deny the traffic. Use security group to do that. But if you block the traffic from firewall D or IP tables, basically, thus even though if you allow the protocol into the security group in the inbound rule, your traffic will not be allowed. Okay. So whoever have some knowledge about the Linux, so they can know that firewall D and IP tables are also the firewalls into the Linux. So if you are controlling the traffic from there, then you need to be double check whether it has been blocked from firewall D or IP tables. But cloud don't recommend to do that. Okay. So you can allow or block the traffic only from the security group at a server level. Okay. Now the another part comes security groups are stateful. Okay. So what's the meaning of that? Basically, when I was talking about this information that whenever you need to communicate from whenever any client machine is communicating to the server machine or any server machine, sorry, my diagram was okay, it has been replaced by this one. Okay, I can rewrite this one, no issues. Okay, so whenever you got it right, what I want to say, whenever you can communicate from the client machine to server machine, so what I said is four things are required. One is source IP, another one is destination IP. One is source protocol, another one is destination protocol. Okay, so I'm just taking that example again. Let me do it from here itself. Okay, so let's say this is your computer or the laptop where you are using PuTTY. Okay, and then you are trying to connect to the server. This is your EC2 server. Okay, now in that EC2 server, basically there's one security group which is attached. And let's say in that security group, we are only allowing port number 22 or anything, let it be anything. Okay, let's say this is a security group which is attached to this server. Keep it anything, that's fine, not an issue. Okay, so let's say this security group is attached. And what are the rules inside the security group? Let's say you have allowed only port number 80 in the inbound. Okay, I'm just writing here port number 80 in the inbound. Okay, sorry, port number 22. Okay, in the inbound and in the outbound, you allowed everything. Okay, now stateful means just give me a moment. All traffic. Write it like this, all traffic. Okay. This is very problem. I just want to keep it as outbound traffic. Okay. All right. So just keep it here. These rules are here. Let's say, okay. Now all inside only port number 8022 lies and outside all traffic is allowed by this server. Okay. Now, when I say that security groups are stateful, what's the meaning of stateful? Stateful means it basically captures or take a state of the traffic. Let's say suppose any traffic is coming. Let's say you requested port number 22. You want to do the SSH. Okay, you are requesting port number 22 because SSH will go to which port number 22. So whenever any connection request comes to this server, basically it's keep the track of that particular session. Whenever that session is created, basically it's keep track of that four things: source IP, destination IP, source address, source IP, destination port number, okay, and destination source port number, okay. So basically, these four information are captured at a particular session. Let's say you try to connect right now. So these four information will be captured. Now, what is the meaning of stateful? Stateful means it keeps tracks of the state. It keeps track of these four things here. Okay. Now, even if you in the outbound routes, let's say suppose tomorrow you have allowed in the inbound 32 and in the outbound you blocked everything. Okay. Nothing allowed. Means you blocked everything. Now tell me one thing, whether our server will respond or not. This is your outbound rule. These are the inbound rules. In the inbound, you allow 22. Okay. You requested to take the session of this server over port number 22. Means you requested the SSH service over to this server. Okay. So server has to respond back, right? Server will respond. That's why you're writing the commands, right? When you are writing the commands, the response is coming back from the server, right? So responding coming back to you, right? Now, if I'm in the outbound, I'm allowing and I'm not allowing anything. Means no traffic can go outside to this server. So will you get the response on your putty or not?
No,
Yes or
sir.
no? Hmm?
No.
No, right? But but technically you can say it will not allow to send the traffic, but if the property of the security group is like it's the stateful, means what security group says that if any requesting coming to me, I will always react on that. Okay, I will always give you the response whether you allow anything into the outbound or not. Let's verify this one. So this was the security group of my server where we allowed port number 80. Okay, and we were running the website. Now, if you see the outbound rule, right now everything is allowed. Okay, right now all traffic can go outside the server. Okay, means server can send any traffic to the outside. Now, if you go to the inbound, we have allowed only port number 22. Let me again allow the port number HTTP, which is for our website. Okay, and anybody from the internet can access our website over port number 80 inside my server. And in the outbound, I am blocking everything. So I am just removing this rule. So when I remove anything, that means I am not allowing anything into the outbound. That means every traffic is blocked. That's what I said about the security group. You only have to write the allow rules. You don't write the deny rules. So what you're saying that I'm not allowing anything. That means in the other way, you are denying everything. Okay. So nothing can go outside from this server. Okay. Now, if you try to access your website, if you see here, nothing was allowed in my outbound rule. Still, I'm getting response from my website. Even though if you try to take a SSH session, because we also allowed in the inbound as a port number 22, you see here. And if I want to go to my server and let's take up my public IP address. So I can go here, go to the public IP address and use putty session to log into your server. So I'm going to access my SSH over port number 22. That's what written here. Go to SSH, go to authentication, credentials, browser, and my key pair. You see here, you are getting response from the server. Let's try to log in this one. Okay. Now, let's take any command. You are writing this command, right? IP address. From where this response is coming? From the server, right? Server is responding back. Means server is able to send the traffic out to you, right? From the internet. But as a technical, if you see here, as a technicality, nothing will be allowed. Means server cannot send the response back. Server cannot send any traffic out. Okay. If you see here, no traffic can come out because we have not allowed anything. Means response should not come out to this user, basically. But it is not happening like this. The response is not should not come out to this user. But the property of the security group is that the security group is stateful, means it keeps track which request is coming to me. So whenever any request comes to server, it basically responds back. Whether you allow it into the outbound or not, that doesn't matter. Anybody has any doubt to understand this one?
No, sir, no doubt.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you one question. That question is, suppose I said that security groups are stateful. That means if you don't allow anything in the outbound, okay, means no traffic can go outside the server. And even though the security group is responding back to every request, now tell me one thing, then why I need to allow anything into the outbound? Suppose tomorrow, uh, if you see most of the security groups in outbound, all the traffic is allowed. So suppose I'm asking a question, let's say, then what's the need of outbound rules basically? If I even though don't allow anything, even though everything is working fine, then why they have given the outbound rules? Why do we need them? Can you just think of? Just think of about that. Think about that. Hmm? Anything, any input is fine for me. I just wanted to make you learn something here.
To prevent unauthorized access.
Prevent unauthorized access. See, unauthorized access will happen when somebody is accessing your server. Not server is trying to access anything. When server is trying to do anything, let's say any person is coming to your home, that's the inbound traffic. So you will verify which person is coming, why he is coming, what's the purpose of that person, right? You will verify or not. But if
Yes.
you are going to somewhere, then what is the prevention of risk on that? Because you are going somewhere. So in the similarly, this traffic is going outside from the server. Why server will worry about that? When we worry when something is coming to us, right or no?
Yes.
So there's no risk, there's no anything like kind of attacking or because you are sending something. You can send anything, right? Can you think of why we need outbound rules still? Any other person? Just give me any input. That's fine for me. Anything is fine for me. I will guide you.
Sir, like if we want to block a particular user or IP for any particular service in that condition.
Again, when I want to block anyone, that will be in the inbound. When I will block, when let's say three people coming to me, I want to block. Hey, you sit there. I want to allow two-person in my room. That's what you do in the inbound, right? Not in the outbound. If you are going somewhere, again think like that. You are going somewhere, then who will block you? The person where you are going. But you are going outside. Will you block yourself to go outside? Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So
Sir,
now,
to restrict information of server, that everything should not go outside. Therefore,
yeah, but what's the harm if anything is going outside? What's the harm in that? Is there any harm? If my server is sending traffic to the outside, to the internet, what's the harm in that? If somebody is sending traffic to me, unauthorized traffic or hacking traffic, somebody want to hack my server, that is an inbound traffic. But when I am sending something to the internet has to be worried about that, which traffic is coming to me. Not server has to be worried about. You got my point? Now, why we need that? Let me take an example. If you don't allow the outbound, okay, if you don't allow the outbound, that means no traffic can go outside from the server. Yes or no? Tell me this point. No traffic can go out from the server, right? Now, only which traffic will be go outside? The traffic which has some request. Let's say suppose you requested to access the server, you requested. This is the inbound traffic. So server has to respond back. That is the property of stateful. But when server decide, because server also has to go send some traffic, right? When server says that, okay, I'm sending this traffic to the internet, so whether he can send or not, server can react only to the request. That is a stateful for property. That's what I said. But server cannot send any traffic to the outside. What traffic this can be? Let's say suppose tomorrow you want to download this page, okay? Or you want to download anything from the internet. How we download? We basically use the curl command. We can use curl command to download anything from the internet, okay? Now you see here, this command is not working, means it is blocked, means what I'm saying that I want to download this particular page from the internet, or I want to access this particular page from the internet. Let's say tomorrow I want to access google.com. So you're trying to download Google page from the internet, but your server is not able to reach to the internet. Can you tell me why is not able to reach? Why your server is not able to reach to the internet? Anybody? Just now we seen, na? Because I have blocked the outbound. Server cannot send any traffic. Yes or no? What is
Yes,
the
sir.
internet? What is internet? 0.0.0.0/0. All the IP address. Internet पर सारी IP address है, right? Means internet is nothing but 0.0.0. That's what we blocked. We did not write any rule. That means every traffic, no traffic can go outside. When server cannot send traffic to the outside, means cannot access to the internet, then how it will download any package, or let's say you want to do some, you want to access the internet, then how it will happen? Because if you don't allow the outbound. So that's why we need to allow the outbound. If your server want to send some traffic out, that has to be allowed in the outbound. So now in the outbound, if I say that, hey, do one thing, I just want to send everything to the outside. So let's say all traffic, just find out here, all traffic, okay? I'm just writing here, all traffic can go to the outside, means to the internet, save the rules. Now you see here, now again, just run this command. Now, are you getting the response now or not? Any response you are getting, right? That's fine for me. But this command is working. This curl command is useful when you want to download something from the internet, okay? Or when you want to access some internet pages. So this is some kind of a document which is available for this website. That's what it says here. If I want to access something else tomorrow, then I can do that, okay? Let's say suppose I want to access the google.com. I want to ping the google.com. I'm able to ping, means I'm able to reach to the google.com, yes or no? Means server can interact with the internet. Why? Because we have allowed the outbound. Now you got it? What is a stateful property? What is outbound? What is inbound?
Yes.
Now, suppose my last question to you. Suppose if I am blocking this one, blocking the outbound, I'm just removing, I'm not allowing anything for now. Let's say again blocked. So can I take the SSS session? Will my SSS session will work or not? Tell me one thing. Yes, no, maybe. Anything is fine. Will my SSH work or not? If I block the outbound, if I remove the outbound rules, will my SSH work?
Yes, sir. SSH will work.
SSH will work, right? Because that's what I said. It's the security groups are stateful, means security group cannot send the traffic. Server cannot send the traffic. That's fine for the server. But what security group says that if anything is coming to me, I will respond back. But you cannot decide from your side which traffic to send. That's what the whole meaning is. Okay, I think now you got it, what I want to say. Even if you don't get it, then let me know, I will repeat it. That's fine for me. Now, that's what I've written everything here. What is security group? what is the stateful property. Okay. Now, one of the question comes, how many security groups can we attach to the instance? So maximum number of 5 security groups we can attach to the instance, that we have already seen. Default VPC has a security group which cannot be deleted. Yeah, remember one thing. If you go to the security group, okay, and if you go to the security group, you see the security groups. There are basically multiple security groups, but you see here, there's one type of security group which is a default security group. So every VPC, when you create a VPC in your AWS account or any reason, you will get a default security group for that VPC. Means whenever a VPC is created, basically 5 default resources are created. One of them is default security group, another one is default NACL, third one is DHCP set, and fourth one is your NACL. Okay. So security groups are created. Okay. And this default security group is a security group of this particular VPC whose ID is B6. And this particular security group is a security group of VPC which is the ID of 1D. So let's say if I'm trying to delete both of the security group, you can delete any other security group which is not in use. Let's say this security group is not in use. If I want to delete this security group, go to the actions and try to delete this security group. Okay. So this will get deleted without any problem. Okay. But if I want to delete the default security group, okay, let's say if I want to delete default security group, what it says that it cannot be deleted. So it says that this is a default security group and this security group cannot be deleted. Okay. So only 2 points here. Every VPC which you create in your AWS account, that particular VPC will also create a default security group behind the scene. Okay. And you cannot delete that default security group. That's the whole purpose which I wanted to say. When you create a custom VPC and security group is also created, which cannot be deleted. It is deleted when VPC itself is deleted. So when the security group will be deleted? When I go to the VPC, okay, and when I try to delete that particular VPC itself, then only this security group will be deleted. Okay. When you delete the instance, security group is not deleted. It has to be deleted manually. So again, if I go to this server, the server which I created to which this security group is attached. So this is the server web server B, and what is the security group attached? This particular security group web server SG security group is attached. Okay. So let's do one thing. And just now removing everything. So this is my security group, okay, which is attached to this particular server. So let's say if I'm deleting this server tomorrow, let's say I terminate this server. So when I terminate this server, you see your server is going to be terminated, but this security group by default will not be deleted. Okay. So you have to manually delete that. That's what I've written here. Okay. Lab 1, create a server and check the SSH and ICMP protocol in inbound. We have checked SSH and HTTP. You can check ICMP protocol. That's fine for me. Create a server and check SSH inbound. That's okay. We did everything now. Okay, all the labs. You can check and do these labs from your side because I've already done uh, for you on HTTP and SSH. Now the question comes here. In security group, what are the default rules? I showed you when we are going to create a security group. By default in inbound, everything is blocked. By default in outbound, everything is allowed. Okay. So you have to decide in the inbound what you need to be allowed. Okay. The default security groups allow all traffic in inbound. Okay. This means enable internal communication. That's fine. Outbound traffic is open by default. Modify the rules. Okay. That's fine. That's the same line again I've written here. Let me delete that. I don't want to write this one again and again. Delete this slide. Okay. Now let's come here. Referencing a security group into the another security group. Now let's take an example. Okay. What I want to say here, let's take an example. So suppose, let's take this particular example. Now suppose you have one application server. Let's say this is your application server. Okay. Where some application is running. Let's say your application is nothing but Apache application. Let's say. Okay. Apache application. Okay. Apache runs over port number 80. Okay. And let's say you have a DB server. Let's say MySQL. Okay. MySQL DB server. Now suppose tell me one thing. This your web server wants to connect a DB server. That's what in the banking system happens, right? Or Facebook or any website. If you enter the user credentials, right, your username and password, it will go into the database of that server and check that whether you are a real user or not, right? So this authentication happens from the database. So every server has a database server backend in the behind the scene. Now, this database usually runs MySQL database. Anybody knows the port number of MySQL database? MySQL database port number, anybody know? So the port number of MySQL database service is
Double three
3305.
zero six
3306, right? Or 5?
six.
6. Okay. So that means MySQL runs over port number 3306. Now tell me one thing. This particular server also have a security group. Okay. So every server by default means will have a security group. This server has, let's say, this security group, and this server has, let's say, this security group. Okay. Now tell me one thing. If this server want to access the database over port number 3306, where I will write the rule? In the inbound rule or in the outbound rule of this server security group? Where I will write the rule? In the inbound or outbound? Yes, tell me where you will write the rule? Inbound or outbound?
If traffic is coming toward this database, then we will write rule in inbound.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. You have to see where the traffic is coming. This server wants to access this server and over the port number 3306. Then when the server will be able to access this server? When you write the inbound, when you open the inbound for this server, right? Yes or no? Now tell me one thing. If I allow inbound 3306, will this server be able to access this server? Yes or no?
Yes.
Think of it again. Is this server able to send the traffic to this server? No, because in the outbound you have not allowed. You got it or not?
Yes, sir.
When the traffic will go out from this server, when you say that here, hey, I want to send the traffic out for port number 3306 or any traffic 0.0.0.0/0 means when this server outbound is not allowed, then this server cannot send the traffic because this is a server choice traffic, right? This is not a stateful. This is server choice traffic. Server is choosing by himself that he wants to send the traffic out. Then you have to allow the outbound, right? Now the communication will happen. Now tell me something. When you write this rule, okay, let's say let me create a security group of this particular server. Okay, so what I'm doing that I'm going to the security group. Now let's assume that I'm going to create the security group for this particular server. So I'm writing the security group name as, let's say, MySQL DB security group. Okay, allow web server to connect with DB server over port number 3306. Okay, that's fine for me. I want to keep it in VPC default VPC. Now, in the inbound, what I said that in the inbound, now if you see the diagram, in the inbound, this particular server is trying to access this server. Okay, so what I'm doing that, I'm allowing port number 3306 in inbound. Okay, and from anywhere, not from anywhere, only from this server. Let's say in your AWS account, there are multiple servers, but I just want to allow from this server. So this server would have particular IP, right? This server would have one particular IP. Let's say that particular IP is 8. Okay. This is the IP address of this server. Okay. So I have to mention here, hey, this server can connect to you. Okay. So that's what I'm writing here. That 10.0.0.0. Okay. Now, whenever you write a IP, you have to write the block as well, CIDR block /32. So anybody knows that why this /32 is mentioned here? What is the meaning of it? What is the meaning of this /32? In the security group, even if you write a single IP address, you have to write /32. What's the meaning of it? Are you guys not seeing the recordings? So in the VPC, I taught you that this is the CIDR block or this is the subnet block, right? How do we calculate? If I want to calculate how many IP address will be there in the subnet, how would you calculate?
32 minus what to take.
32 minus 32 minus 32. Okay. So let's say tomorrow this is 24 here. Let's say 24. So how many IP address will be there? 32 minus 24, whatever comes out, to raise the 2 to the power of that. Okay. So if I write here 32, so 32 minus 32 equals to 0. Raise it 2 to the power that. So 2 to the power 0 is how much? Any to the power 0 is how much?
1.
1. That means this shader block wants to say that this is only the one IP and which is this only. Now you got it? But the way of writing is you have to define here CIDR block. You got it? So ultimately what I want to say that I'm just allowing this particular IP address over to this server over port number 3306. And the outbound, let's leave the outbound. That's fine. Now, if I create this security group, then what I've did is that I have basically allowed this particular server and to this server in the inbound I write 3306. So for writing the inbound rule, I got to know that which resource can access my server. So I just allowed this resource. How I allowed? I write this particular IP address. If I write 0.0.0 means what will the meaning of that?
All IPs allowed.
Means anybody from the internet can access to this server to over port number 3306, right? But I have only allowed this server. Now suppose tomorrow what is happening is that let's say let me create this server security group as well. So what I'm doing that, let me go to the security group again. Okay. And create a new security group for application server for the web server. Okay. So let's say I'm writing here, this is web server security group. Okay. Web server security group new, because we already have this security group. Simply write like this, web server security group, something like that. Okay. So send traffic to TV server over port 808 over port 3306. Okay. So this server will send the traffic to the DB server. Okay. Now in the inbound, I will not write any rule because this security group just to send the traffic. Okay. So in the outbound, either you allow everything or either you just allow the database server IP address. So let's say database server IP address is 10.0.0.9/32. Okay. And I'm just going to allow not all the traffic, only DB. Let's say DB is there, MySQL is there. Yeah, MySQL Aurora. So it's automatically taking 3306 means this particular server can only send the traffic out to my DB server over port number 3306. You got the rule? Okay. So
Yes,
now
sir.
create security group. Now understand this point. This is very deep point, which you will usually get into the industry and you will get a problem. Every people just get the problem because they don't know what's inbound and outbound. Now, I mention here that I just want to allow 10 dot. I will means now specifically mention that I am not going to send traffic over to the internet. I'm just going to send the traffic to this particular server. Okay. And what is that this particular server? This particular server is not nothing but this server whose IP address is 10.0.0.9/32. Okay. You can write like 32 if both are same. Okay. That means single IP address only. Okay. Now, when you do that, now tell me something. Suppose tomorrow this server is deleted. Except that, okay, it can happen, right? Just now we seen that one server was corrupted and we created that server. Now suppose tomorrow the web server is deleted. So you will create a new server, yes or no? When your server is corrupted or deleted, you will create a new server, right?
Yes, sir.
Now when you create a new server, you will get another IP address, right? Private IP address, yesterday I told you, it is valid till server is terminated. When server is terminated, when you create a new server, you will get a new IP address. So let's say tomorrow, the new IP address of this server is, let's say, .10. Now, will you be able to access this server?
No, sir. If IP will change, then we will not able to do this.
Right? You have to go again to this server in the security group and change the IP address. Means you have to change the entry, right?
Yes.
That's what the security group referencing come. Security group referencing. So what I want to say that in my DB server, this is my DB server security group, okay? So I'm again going to the inbound. What I'm saying that, hey, I'm not allowing the IP address. What I'm doing that, I'm just allowing the security group. So your web server security group is this one, okay? So you have to delete that rule first, okay? Create a new rule and MySQL, okay? So what I say is that, hey, only this particular server who is having this particular security group ID. And what is that security group ID? This security group ID is of this particular security group. You see here, this is the web server security group ID, okay? So what I want to say that only allow this particular security group means the server who has this particular security group will only be allowed. Now I have removed the IP address. Now from doing this, I am saving lots of things. What I'm doing, I'm basically doing I'm just easing my management of managing the security group rules. If I save the rules, still I'm doing the same things. So what I did that rather than defining the IP address here, I defined this particular security group ID because every security group will get an ID. You can define the ID as well. So now tomorrow, even my IP address changing, then I don't have to worry about that because the new server which I will create, I will use the same security group for that server. Now you got it? What's the purpose of security group referencing?
Yes.
Okay. So I have one more benefit as well. The first benefit is that even tomorrow my IP address is changing. I don't have to worry about that. Another benefit is that let's say tomorrow your company says that, hey, do one more thing. Just create one more web server. So now there are two web servers. If you don't do the security group referencing, if you allow the rules by the IP address, then this server would get IP address. You have to get another rule, second rule here in the inbound, and says that, hey, I want to allow this particular server as well. Let's say this got this particular IP address. So you will have to allow this one as well. But if you use the security group and use the same security group, because this is also a web server, right? So this security group is sufficient for this server. Now, when you use the security group itself, you don't have to make the another rule because security group referencing means it is referencing to this security group, right? This and this both are same. So by default, this server is also allowed to this to access to this server. This server is also allowed to access to this server. So you are doing management very easy. Let's say tomorrow 10 web server are being created from the same security group. So do you want to make, do you have to make any entry in this rule, in this security group rule?
No, sir, if we are using same security group, then no.
Yeah, if you're using same security group, then we can reference it. Okay, it's already been referenced, then that's fine. You don't. But if you use the IP address in the rules, then there's a problem. If you have created 10 web server, you have to create 10 entries in your inbound rules for those 10 web servers, right? All right. So this is the whole purpose was. Now let's go ahead and see what we have. So we have completed that. Okay. We should minimize the use of IP address in security group. That's what I have already discussed. Now let's talk about the NACL, okay, which is the second type of firewall in our AWS, okay. So NACL stands for Network Access Control List, okay, and NACL basically is a stateless firewall. So your security group basically stand over to your server, means it provides the security for your server, okay. But let's say when we were using the VPC, when we created the VPC, let's say this is your VPC. This is your VPC. Okay. In this VPC, if you want to create the server, will you be able to create that? Yes or no? If I want to say that, can I create a server inside a VPC? Can I do that?
No, sir, first we define to create a subnet, then we can.
Subnets. Okay. So that means I need to create the subnets, right? Let's say I have a two subnets, or let's say particularly right now I have one subnet. Sorry. Okay, one subnet. Now this is my VPC. This is my subnet. Okay. Now in the subnet only we create the server. Okay. So let's say I have the EC2. And who manages the traffic for the EC2?
Sure.
Security group. Okay, so let's say this is your security group attached to your server, which is managing the traffic. Okay, so this is your security group, which is managing the traffic. Now, forget about the security group rule. Let's say you created your security group rule, whatever you wanted to allow, you allowed that for this server. Okay, but even before, when the traffic enters into the server from the user, it has to pass from the your subnet. So over to the subnet, there's one person sitting which accept or blocks the traffic, which is nothing but NACL. Okay. Or you can just put like this, okay? So this is the NACL, okay? Which is basically sitting here over to the subnet, okay? It's basically sits over to the subnet. So any traffic which enters into the VPC, and after that VPC, the traffic goes to the subnet, right? So when it reaches to the subnet decide whether I want to allow this traffic or not. So who decide over to the subnet? NACL, okay? So NACL basically sits here and decide that whether this particular traffic, let's say any user want to access over to the port number 80, any website, okay? So very first thing is that your traffic will enter to the VPC. So NACL will have to decide whether I want to allow this traffic or not. So this is the second layer of security for your server. Now, once NACL passes this traffic, then only your traffic goes to the server. Then only traffic goes to the security group. Okay. So what I said that security groups are stateful. Okay. That means if any traffic comes to the security group, if any traffic is passed to the NACL and reaches to the server, okay. So security groups are stateful. Whether you allow in the outbound or not, it doesn't matter. If something has reached to the server, server will always respond back. That's what we have already seen. But NACL are stateless. Stateless means it doesn't carry the information of source IP address, source port number. Means it doesn't create the session. You know about the session, right? When we basically do some, let's say, when you are logging to the banking website, another browser is opened. You would have think about that, okay? So that particular session is created at that time for a specific period of time. If you don't do something over to that session automatically gets logged out. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So in the similar way, when something comes to the security group, a particular session is created. So security group knows that, okay, what has reached to me, I have to respond back. Okay. But NACL says that I doesn't create any session. I don't worry about what you are sending to me. Whatever you will say, I don't have a state. I'm a stateless, means I doesn't care about what is coming to me. Whatever is coming to me, I will analyze whether that rule is allowed inside me or not. And whatever is going outside, again I will check whether that rule is there or not. If outbound is not allowed, NACL will not respond back. NACL will not send the traffic out. If something is allowed, then only that will be allowed. If something is written in the outbound, that only will be allowed. So that's what NACL says that. NACL says that I am stateless. I don't respond back. If something is written in my outbound rule, I will check and allow that. Okay, you got it? What is the outbound? What is the stateless? So that that is the NACL. Now, in NACL, a network access control is a stateless firewall that controls and provides an additional layer of security by acting as a filter between VPC and the outside world. Okay, stateless. Unlike security group, which are stateful, NACLs are stateless. That means you must define both the inbound and outbound rules for any communication to happen. If you allow inbound traffic, you also need to allow the corresponding outbound traffic to complete the communication. Whereas in security group, if you allow port number 80, you don't have to allow in the outbound. Server will always respond back. But in NACL, if you are allowing port number 80, you have to allow their corresponding outbound as well. Means you have to allow the port number 80 in the outbound as well. Okay. Subnet level. Basically, your NACL works on the subnet level. Okay. So whenever traffic reaches to the subnet, NACL analyzes this traffic, whether it has to allow or it has to be denied. Okay. All instances in the subnet are subject to the rules of NACL associated with that subnet. Okay, that's fine. You can understand NACL is a subnet level resource. Now, allow and deny rule. In the security group, we were just only defining the allow rule. Let's say you allow port number 80. So accept that port number 80, everything is denied by default. So you are just writing the allow rule. Okay, you are not mentioning that I'm allowing this particular protocol and I'm denying this particular protocol. No, you are just writing the allow rules only. Okay, but in NACL, you have to define you can define both the things. What is allowed, what is denied. So here allow is also here we can write two types of rule. One can be the allow rule and another can be the deny rule. Okay, you can say that port 80 is allowed, but port 22 is denied. You can write that. Okay, we will see that. You can explicitly allow and deny specific traffic, which gives more control over to what cannot enter and what is leaving the subnet. This is different from a security group. Rules are written into the preceding number. So in the NACL, basically what you do is, let's take an example. So in the NACL, basically, now I'm removing this one, you can understand. Or let's say I'm just taking this out here so that I can define. So the same thing, the same NACL I'm just taking out here, okay? So let's say suppose you are writing the rules, whether inbound or outbound rules, okay? Let's say you are writing inbound rules for NACL. So you written here. So you have to define the rule number first. Rule number. So you define the rule number and then you will write the rule. Okay. So you say that, hey, I just want to have two rules and one of the rule number is 100 and another one is 200. So let's say you written these two rules. Okay. So you have to define the serial, kind of a serial number, right? When you write any entry, you define the serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the similar way, NACL says that you have to define the serial number of that particular rule. Okay. Let's say at the first rule, you are allowing port number 80 and at the second rule, you are allowing port number 22. Okay. So you have to decide that. Now, let's say I have allowed port number 22. So I have written there the rule number as a 100 and second rule numbers are 200. So which one will be executed first? So NACL says that I will decide which rule has to be executed first. So that depends upon the priority of that rule. The least priority rule will be executed first. Means the rule number which is very least. Okay, let's say the rule number is 100 will be executed first. Rule number 200 will be executed on the second stage. Let's say you have written rule number 200 first and you have mentioned here rule number 100 in the second stage. So which one will be executed first? 100 or 200?
100.
100. Whether you write it on the second stage or whether you write it on the third stage, it will see which rule number is the least number. Got it? So this is how the rules numbers are written. This is how the rules are written. You have to decide the rule number first. Okay. Then you will write the rule. Which traffic is allowed and which traffic is denied. We will see that. Okay. Structure of the NACL rule. Rule number. You have to first define the rule number. So you can take a rule number from this range 1, 2, 3 to 7, 6, 6. Okay. Any range you can take. Means suppose first you defined as a 2, rule number 1. Second rule you decide as a 2. Third you decide as a 100. Fourth 199. So any range you can take to decide the rule number. Rule action, whether the rule is allow rule or deny rule. The rule action means whether the rule which you're writing, it is for allowing the traffic or denying the traffic. Protocol, which protocol? 8022 port range. Okay. The other things are similar to the security group. Only one thing is added, which is nothing but the rule number. We will see that. How NACL work? Inbound traffic. When a packet arrives at the subnet level, AWS evaluates the rules in the NACL associated with that subnet to determine whether it should be allowed or denied. Outbound traffic. When a resource in the subnet sends a traffic out, the NACL checks if the outbound traffic matches the allow rule or not. Okay. Since NACL is stateless, I already told you stateless means all the traffic will be analyzed, whether inbound or outbound. Okay. Both the traffic will be analyzed. Now there are some example of writing the rules. Okay, one of the example is uh, inbound rules. So rule number 100 says that allow HTTP traffic. Rule number 200 says that action is allowed and allowing MySQL traffic. Rule number 300 says that block all the other traffic. Okay. So which rule will be executed first? Rule number 100 rule. On the second stage, rule number 200 will be executed on the second stage. Okay. Similarly, some outbound rules are allowed mentioned here. Now, key difference between NACL and security group. We have seen that there's only two major key difference. One is that security groups are stateful, NACLs are stateless. Another difference is that we have to define the rule number into the NACL when we write the rule. Third difference is that in the security group, we only define the allow rule. We don't have deny rules to be defined. In NACL, we can define both the rules, allow rules as well as the deny rules. Okay. When we create a VPC, we basically have four resources to be created by default: default security group, default NACL, DHCP site. We will see DHCP site and default routing table. Okay. We will do that. Don't worry about that. Now this is kind of a picture that I've placed. I've already talked about that on the subnet level. First NACL acts, then security group comes. Okay. Now NACL rule. For example, if I write a two rules, let's go to the NACL. We will explore into that. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to the EC2 console, and then again I'm going to the security groups or NACL, where you will find it. Network security group, placement groups. So maybe you can go into the VPC console and see there you will see the NACLs. Okay. So security group you can open from both the side, but NACL you will be able to open from only to the VPC console. Okay. So when I go to the VPC console, I'll basically see the network ACL on the left hand side, and then I have multiple ACL. So if you see here, these are the default ACLs. So every VPC, as I said, that when you create a VPC, default security group is created for that. As well, default NACL is also created. So if you see here, this particular VPC has this default ACL, this particular VPC has this default ACL, and subnets are associated. Okay, so I can create my own ACL. So let's say I'm creating, let's say my ACL or my NACL. Okay, I'm just giving the name. Now for which VPC you are going to create that? So you want to create the VPC for, let's say, VPC B, okay? And create network ACL. Now this ACL is created. Now let's define some rule. Right now, if you see here, the inbound rules, by default, everything is denied, okay? And in the outbound rule, by default, in the outbound rules, by default, everything is denied. Means in the inbound as well, everything is denied. In the outbound as well, everything is denied. Now you can decide. Let's say I'm going to the inbound and subnet association. Which subnets are associated? So I have created basically this rule for VPC-B, but already one of the rule is already there, which is a default ACL for VPC-B. I don't want to use that. So what I'm doing that, I'm associating these two particular subnets to my this particular ACL. Now remember one thing, when I do that, these particular subnets are being de-associated from this rule, associated from this particular rule. That means any subnet can be a part of one ACL only at any time. Okay, just remember this thing. If you have 10 network ACL rules created, if you have 10 network ACL created, okay, so very first thing is that when you create a network ACL, you have to define for which VPC you are going to define that network ACL. So you have to decide the VPC ID, okay? So when I was creating this network ACL, I basically associated this network ACL to this particular VPC. Now this particular VPC have a multiple subnets, right? So I'm going to decide because NACL acts on the subnet level. I have to decide for which particular subnet this ACL is going to be work. So I went and associated the subnets for this ACL. Now these subnet were already associated with this particular ACL as well. So when I associated to this particular ACL, it has got de-associated from this particular ACL. You got it? That means any particular subnet will be a part of one particular ACL. It cannot be a part of two ACLs at any time. You got it? So this is the very first thing. Now, whenever any traffic comes to this subnet, we can define it into the inbound. Now we can go to the inbound and say that, hey, I'm just right now everything is denied by default. I'm just saying that, hey, I'm just writing the rule number 100 and says that I just want to allow SSH port number 22 from anywhere. That's fine for me. Okay. Save changes. Now, if you see here, the inbound rule in the NACL, what it says that the port number 22 is allowed and other traffic is blocked. Means after this one, because this rule is coming on asterisk, means when everything is executed, after that, this will be taken care. Okay. So this is by default rule. By default, everything is denied. So now what it says that I will execute this rule first, which is the allow rule. And after that, I will execute this rule. Means after that, nothing is going to happen. All other traffic is going to be denied. Okay. So now, if you go to the outbound, everything is denied by default. Now tell me one thing. I have two subnets here, public subnet and private subnet. Now suppose if I'm launching an instance, let's say tomorrow I'm creating an instance into the VPCB because I have created the ACL for VPCB, not VPCA. Okay. Now, if I go to the server and create a server, let's say my new server, something like that, or let's say VPCB server, I'm just writing like this, VPCB server, because I'm going to create in the VPCB server, okay, VPCB, VPC, and then let it be keep here like this, and then I want to decide which subnet to create. So let's say I want to create any subnet is fine for me. I'm getting the public IP address, okay. Sorry, I have to decide here VPCB because I'm going to create the server on VPCB. Any subnet is fine for me, okay. Now, I'm just going to allow the SSH in the security group, okay. So I will get a security group where SSH is allowed, okay. Now, that's fine. Do one thing. Okay, this security group is fine where we will modify that security group. Okay, and now I'm launching the instance. Now, very first thing is that just forget about the security group now. What I'm doing is for understanding the ACL, I am allowing everything in security group in the inbound and outbound. So you don't have to worry about the security group rules. Otherwise, you will get confused. So I have this server. Okay, what I'm doing that I'm just going to that server. I'm just going to the security group of that server. So this server security group is, let it come. So this server security group is this. Okay. Now, if you go to this security group, what I'm doing that I'm allowing everything in inbound. So in inbound, let me remove this rule. I'm allowing everything, so you don't have to worry about. So what I'm says that all traffic. Okay, I'm allowing all the traffic in inbound from internet, and in the outbound, I'm allowing all the traffic to the internet. Okay, so that's fine for me. So you don't have to worry about, you may not made any changes. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not making any changes because it's already allowed. So inbound in the security group, everything is allowed. In the outbound in the security group, everything is allowed. That means security group will not restrict your any traffic. Okay, you got it? So now tomorrow, let's say if I'm going to do the SSH over to this server. So if I go to the NACL, where's my NACL? So just now, don't worry about this one. VPCB, just close this one as well. This, close this one as well. Okay, this is my VPCB server. This is the security group. Let's close this one. Don't have to worry about. Now, if you go to the NACL, which is associated to this VPCB, this is the NACL, right? Which is associated to the VPCB. Okay. If I'm going to the inbound rules and see here what is there. So let's say right now I'm denying everything, means everything is denied by default. Okay. In the outbound, if you see the same rule, everything is denied in the outbound. So if you go to the uh, this particular image, so if you see here in the NACL, what I said that inbound is also blocked. Okay, inbound blocked means no traffic. Inbound is denied, and outbound is denied. And in the security group, I have allowed everything. If any traffic comes from the subnet, it will be allowed here. Okay. And if anything goes out to the server, it can go here. But if you see here in the NACL, I have right now, I have a default rules which says that nothing is allowed. Okay. And the outbound which says that nothing is going to be in the outside. Okay. So now if I want to take the SSH of this server, will I able to take that? Anybody? Will I be able to take the SSH of this server? Yes, no?
Sir, did we allow SSH in NACL?
That's what I'm saying. In NACL, we have blocked everything in the inbound and outbound.
So in this condition, we are not able to do SSH, I think.
Okay, so in that condition, we will not be able to do the SSH. Okay, so it doesn't matter if your security group has been allowed for everything. Earlier, we were talking about the security group because in NACL, by default, everything was allowed. Okay, that's why every traffic was coming to here, and the user were getting responded. The user is here. Okay, the user was getting responded from the internet. But now, if you see here, your security group has everything allowed, but you are not able to get the response from the server because NACL is blocking. Now, suppose tomorrow, what I do that, tomorrow if I go to the NACL and says that, hey, I just want to allow SSH. So I'm writing a rule here and rule number is 100, okay? And what I say is that I want to allow SSH, which is over port number 22. From where? From anywhere where is fine for me, okay? From the internet, anybody can access. So I'm saving this rule, okay? So first rule, as I said that the least rule number will be executed and asterisk will be executed in the last. Okay. So asterisk is by default, which says that the rule which you have written here, after that, if no rules are there, this will be executed. Means it's allow only SSH, all the traffics are blocked. Okay. So now you tell me if I want to take the SSH, will I be able to take that?
For now, yes, we can.
Anybody else? Other people are not thinking. Still, I will not be able to take the SSH because your outbound is blocked. You see, no traffic can go outside. So if you see the diagram in NaCl, if you allowed, okay, let's take the NaCl like this. Let me write like this. So I'm just taking this kind of security group. Okay. So let's say this is your NaCl. I'm just changing the name. Okay. Now, this is sitting here on the subnet level. Okay. Now, there are two rules. Inbound and outbound. Okay. Inbound and outbound. Okay. In the inbound, you allow 22. Okay. And in the outbound, you did not allow anything. All is blocked. Means all traffic denied. So NaCl is a stateless. That's what I said to you. NaCl will check what you have allowed. That's only can go enter. So port number 22 traffic has entered from the NaCl, went to the security group. But when response came from the security group, NaCl blocked that because outbound is blocked. So if outbound is blocked, no traffic will be responded back to the user because NaCl says that I doesn't work like security group works. NaCl says that I am a stateless, means if you have to decide, you have to write everything, right? What happened? Any doubt? So in the outbound, we have not allowed anything. So that's why NaCl will not allow the traffic go outside from the NaCl, even though the traffic is responded back. So traffic is something like coming from here. The response is coming from the server to the NaCl. Okay. But NaCl says that, hey, I am stateless. If you have not allowed anything to go outside, so nothing will go outside. So this traffic has been blocked from here to here. So inside port number 22 traffic is coming, but outside from the NaCl, this traffic is not going to the user. So when it will go, when we will also allow into the outbound of the NaCl, right? So when you go to the outbound of the NaCl, if you see the outbound of the NaCl, right now everything is blocked. So let's say I'm writing a rule number says that, hey, rule number is 100 and I want to allow SSH and the destination is this and I want to allow. Now will I be able to take the SSH?
Yes, sir.
Still, I will not be able to take the SSH. You see here, that is very interesting. That's what it is NaCl. That's why I'm taking so much time to make you understand what is actually the NaCl. So now still you are not able to take the traffic out. Okay. Now tell me one thing. I told you one thing. When I started my class, I told you that we basically, whenever any communication happen between your server to the client to the server, okay. So let's say this is you are a user. Let's say this is your machine, okay. Let's go to the original diagram itself. We can define there so that is more convenience. So now suppose this is there, okay, the user, okay. So this is the user. When any request originates, when any request comes here, so this has source IP address, means it has its own IP address, right? Which I showed you. And the source port number. Yes or no?
Yes,
Source
sir.
port number, okay. So source port number, I said to you that this port number is an ephemeral port. Means anything can be, there was one range. I'm just forgetting 1024 to something, sorry, 491 something was to 65535. Okay. I'll check it in my document. That's fine. So any port number from this range was assigned. Okay. Now, what is the source IP address? Source IP address, I can check it from the internet. This is my source IP address 157.20.228.220. Okay. So I'm just 57.20.228.220. This is my source IP address, means my laptop IP address. Okay. So I can write here so that you can understand more easily. Now, this is the user, which is me, and I have having this information. Okay. So any IP address will be carried forward whenever I send any request. So let's say I'm using port number 22. I'm going to access this particular server over port number 22. So what information, let's say take an example, the information which has been carried out, let's say port number, dynamically one port is assigned. Let's say port number is 4000. Okay. So now suppose this information from this request has been carried to the here. So when NACL sees this request, what NACL is seeing? This particular information. When NACL wants to respond back, tell me one thing. When NACL has the outbound allowed, it want to respond back. So it will respond back to which port number? 22 or 4000?
4,000.
4000, right? So whenever NACL, because you having this information, right? This is the source information. This is a destination information. The server has own IP address and port number 22, which we have already allowed in inbound. But when outbound traffic goes, so outbound traffic has to respond back to this machine, right? And this machine has this information. So traffic will be sent out to the 4000 port number, not to the 22. That's why we are not getting response. So in the outbound rule, what we have to do that we are not allowing SSH. It can be any port decided by the client machine. Okay. So which is that range? We can go here and see what is that range we have written. So when I started my session, I said that the ephemeral range is this one, 4915226535, means randomly any port will be decided. Okay. So what I can do that I can say that, hey, I want to allow custom protocol. Okay. And protocol is fine for me. Okay, but what is the port range? So I can define the port range, like I could say here 02 or 49152265535. Okay, why it's not coming here? Custom protocol, custom TCP. Yeah, here I have to define. So 49152265535, because client machine can assume any port which is free from this range. That's what the dynamic port range means. Okay. So any port range from this one to this one can be assigned. So that's why NACL will respond back to any port from this range. So now if I save the changes, and now if you try to access your server, where's that? So let's take the IP address of this server now and try to do the SSH. I'm getting response now. So you got it? What is NACL inbound and what is NACL outbound? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anna? So now if you try to use the user, you will be able to access this server. All right. But if you see, so right now we created our own ACL. Right now we have our own VPC. Okay. And right now we decided our own rule. But let's say suppose I am running a website over to this server. Okay. Let's say I am just installing this particular thing. Yum install http://y. Okay. So you see here, my server is getting stuck. Okay. Why? Because my NACL is not allowing me to access the traffic. Okay. So you see here, if I want to do the, if I go to my server, if I go to my NACL, okay, I want to access the internet. So let's say any traffic which wants to go outside to the destination. So it says that I will allow to this port and all other traffic is blocked. Okay. For going to the internet, what we need, all traffic we need. So I'm adding one more rule which says that 200, and what I'm doing that I'm allowing all the traffic. Now any traffic can go outside. Okay. So very first thing is that this traffic will be used. Sorry, go to the outbound. This rule will be executed first. On the second stage, this traffic will be executed on the second stage. Okay. Let me do again. Still nothing is getting done. So what's the problem? Can you figure out? Still my server is not able to send the traffic to the internet. Because internet, any port range will come, right? Any protocol can come, any port range will come, right? So still my server is not able to send the traffic out to the internet. Because it's a outbound, right? It's a outbound. Outbound means the NACL will also send the outbound, right? For understanding this one, what you can do is you can just see a default rule. Okay. If you, let's say I want to say a default ACL, what's outbound? So outbound says that rule number 100 means allow all the traffic out. Okay. So why this is not happening in our case? Because this rule says that I will just allow this traffic. And on the second stage, when this is executed, you say that allow all traffic and you say that deny all the traffic, right? So what you have to do, if you want to allow all traffic first and then this one, so you have to change the rule number. What you have to do that, you have to change the rule number, this one. For first one, you can give 200, second one, you can give 100, okay? So if you save changes, rule number already in use, so what you can do that, let's remove this one. On the first stage, what I'm saying that, the rule number 100, which says that it can be all traffic can go to the internet. Okay. Another rule, after that, if anything is left, so you can send all TCP, sorry, one moment, custom TCP. Okay. And what's the port range? 49152265535. Six five five three five. Okay. Save changes. Now let's try to do the communication. It's still not happening. Yeah, why it's not happening? Because just give me a moment, let me define here as well. Because response from the internet will come back. So when the response from the internet will come back, it has to be allowed here. So response can come from any traffic. Okay. So when basically 49152, when internet will basically response back to me, so that also has to be allowed. So now if you check, it's not coming. Why it's not coming? Inbound rule, allow this SSH, allow, that's fine, that's that, allow all traffic. Maybe it can use any protocol. Okay, so now it's working. Okay. So what actually was happening? We have allowed from the outside, but as I said that NACL is the stateless, right? So what is actually happening? When I send the request to the internet, okay, so internet is responding back to me. So that traffic will also be allowed into the inbound, right? So that's why what I did that I have allowed all traffic in the inbound as well. So what I said that first rule is that if somebody is doing the SSH, just allow that. If somebody is sending traffic to me from the internet, allow that. Apart from that, all the traffic, let's block it. Okay. In the outbound, what I say is that if you even do like this, if you define rule number 100 to this one, let's remove this one. Let's keep in the original state. So let's rule number 100. I just want to do the SSH. So 49152 65535. Okay. And second rule is 200, which is nothing but all traffic, means I can send out all traffic to the internet. Okay. So now also this will work. So if I try to install it, it will say that it's already installed, already working. That's fine. Okay. So this is the whole sole purpose of the NaCl. If any doubts are there, just let me know. I will repeat that. If no, then you can ask any question if you have regarding the NaCl. Any doubts, anything which is not getting understood from your side?
Clear, sir.
It's clear? Okay. So now let's move further. Where we were? Yeah, we were here. Let's finish up the NaCl. Okay. We were, yeah, I've written here as well, the reserve ports. Okay. And then ephemeral ports are 49152. When any client respond back, so it has to be respond back into this particular port range. Okay. Now, deny my IP in SSH and allow all other IP in NaCl. So let's take this example. What I want to do that I just want to allow only my IP to do the SSH. I don't want other IPs to do the SSH on my server. Okay, so how you will write that rule? So let's say, suppose, let's forget about the internet. So now let me define my rules. So in the inbound rule, what I say that right now, if I remove this particular rule, rule number 200, so what I'm saying that, hey, any IP address can take the SSH, can send the request to me on my server over port number 22. But let's say tomorrow, what I say is that I don't want to allow every person. What I want to do, I just want to allow myself, means I can only take the SSH session. So this is my public IP address. Let's refresh that and see it has not been changed. So this is my public IP address 157.20.228.220, or even though 157.20.228.220, okay, /32. So this is my IP address, means I can only take the SSH to this server where this NaCl is attached. Apart from that, all the traffic is denied. Let's save changes. Okay. And apart from that, what is the outbound rule? Let's go to the outbound rule. Outbound rule says that, hey, uh, if you want to get that response back from your client machine, just allowing that traffic. Okay. Otherwise, this internet traffic I'm blocking. Okay. So I will get a response from the destination. So because it can be any IP address, that's fine. So now what I want to do that I want to take the SSH session. It's not coming. What happened? Inbound rule says that allow the SSH from this IP address. Or do I have to define 32 here? Okay, it has to be defined CIDR block. Was this the correct IP address? 157.20.228.220. 157.20.228.220. It means this particular IP address can send the traffic to NaCl. That's fine. It should come here. That's what we defined here. Rule number, this one, okay. Deny my IP SSH and allow all other IP. That's fine. Okay, what we are doing in the wrong way. We are allowing all other my IP and denying. That is also fine because I'm just allowing my IP. I am denying all other IPs. All other IPs are denied on the second rule. It should work fine. Just give me a moment. In the outbound, what is there? In the outbound response, we'll get back. Okay, I think I have to allow the internet as well. Just give me a moment. 200. On the 200, allow all traffic. That's fine. Now let's see. Still not working. Let me check whether this IP address is correct or not. What is my IP address? Okay, it has changed 157.22.129. And what we have written? 129. Okay. 129. 157, 227, 157.20, 228, 129. Okay. Mm, it's not working. Maybe my IP address is getting changed or something is happening to my IP address. Because this is a public IP address, 157.20.228.129. Okay, do one thing. If this is changing, then what we can do is we are blocking this one, okay? And we are allowing everything, okay? Apart from that, we are allowing everything. So write another rule says that, okay, just block this one. And for SSH, allow other everything, okay? I'm allowing all the IP address. Now, just try to see whether you're getting response or not. Yeah, now it's working. Can you also try to do that? Whether it's allowing you or not. Maybe my IP address is not showing correctly. That's why the first one we are not able to see. Okay. So what I've done that, even if you see the rules, what I'm going to do that, I have blocked this particular IP address to take the SSH. Okay. And allow all other IP address. So these two rules are for the first one is denying. When this rule executed, it will check whether this IP address is not. When this IP address matches, it will deny that. On the other hand, the second rule says that the priority of second rule is 200. That means this one will be executed first and this one will be executed on second stage. What it does is that on the second stage, I'm going to allow everybody, okay, except means this exactly rule says that except this one, everything is allowed for SSH in the inbound, okay? All right. Now, apart from that, if you go further, what else I have done? I've just defined these two rules, okay? Now, will this allow or block? Suppose I have written these three rules, okay? Rule number 100 says that I'm allowing everything. So let's write rule number 100 in the inbound and I'm writing all ICMP protocol. Let's say all ICMP protocol IPv4 and I'm taking here 0.0.0. And what I'm doing that, I'm allowing this one. Let's allow this one, okay? And rule number 218.1 says that just allowing SSH port number 22, okay? And from which IP address? Let's say I'm just writing my IP address. Because technically it's not working right now because maybe my IP address has some problem. So I'm just mentioning this number. What I'm saying that, just try to understand. I'm allowing everything in the first rule. On the second rule, what I say is that where rule number is 201, which says that the IP address is 32. Oh, sorry, IP address is this one, this particular host. And what is the third rule? Third rule says that rule number is 200. Let me add one more rule, 200. And in which I says that I am doing SSH again and port number 22, all this one and deny. So can you tell me which will be effective? What will happen to when I write this rule?
I think 100 number rule will more effective than 200.
100 one number rule will be more effective than 200. So here basically rule number, the priorities are least rule numbers are executed first, okay? So if you see here, in the rule number 100, so very first thing is that rule number 100 will be executed first. So what rule number 100 says that, because rule number 100 is least priority because it has a least number, right? So rule number 100 says that I am allowing everything, all protocol means whether it's SSH protocol, all protocol means everything, HTTP, SSH, everything I'm allowing. And on the second stage, on the rule number 200, it says that you are denying SSH. So at rule number U itself says that I'm allowing every protocol. Every protocol means everything. And on rule number second on 200, you says that rule number 200 will be executed on the second stage, right? When this will execute it, it will deny everything. So when SSH was allowed here, how it can be denied here? Okay, so this is not effective. 201 says that I am just allowing the SSH over to this part. So that is also fine. But when you say this IP address means this IP address is already included here. 0.0.0 means every IP address has been included here. That's what the meaning is. When I save the changes, so this simply means that SSH will be allowed by any IP address. Okay. So if I try to take it again, it will be allowed by any IP address. So you see here, I am able to log in now. And if you go to this particular rule and see the inbound, rule number 100, all ICMP. Okay. And rule number 2 says that I am denying everything. So you will not be able to do, only ICMPs are allowed. Okay. Not all the protocol. The SSH is denied. Okay. On the rule number 100, only this particular IP is allowed. And rule number 4, all traffic is denied. After that, rule number 4 will be executed. So all ICMP, SSH will be denied because you said that SSH 22 from any source will be denied. Okay. SSH from this particular IP address will be allowed. So maybe I don't have this IP address. That's why I'm getting denied. I'm not able to log in. Whoever the person having this IP address will only be able to do the SSH. Okay. That's what the rule number says. So this is how you need to understand the which rule will be executed first. Accordingly, the rules will be defined. All right. So this is what about the NACL. Okay. And if you have any questions or anything which you don't get, just let me know. We will cover up that one. Otherwise, we will close our session today. And next week, we will be doing some other part of VPC, which is VPC peering and VPN solutions. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what I'm doing that, I'm just closing the session now. And I will share the recordings with the KR team. They will share with you. And we will meet again tomorrow or meet again in the next week. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.